Welcome back to Carvalho Creations, coming to you live from top secret containment base, Sector 13, which is definitely not my garage in the lab coat. We've had a minor containment breach. Nothing too crazy, just some tentacles, maybe a sentient vapor, just light Monday stuff.
You said I was being recruited for a research internship, not shoved in a Tupperware full of fog juice and fear.
Containment Protocol 4C. Shut it, Reginald. You touched the orb. You were told never to touch the orb.
It was glowing and making purring noises. I thought it was lonely.
It was lonely, Reggie, and now it's in you, or near you, or it is you. I don't know. Jury's still out. Anyway, today we're building an alien containment unit with 100% recycled earth junk. Why? Because the government won't fund us and Home Depot doesn't carry any plasma shields.
You're using a vacuum cleaner, Geo.
A decommissioned atmospheric extractor. Thank you. So grab your cardboard tubes, your expanding foam, and whatever weird stuff you got hiding under the sink. Because today we're going to trap ourselves a galactic biothreat, Carvalho style.
It's spelling out words now. I think it wants a lawyer.
Perfect. So let's build something wild. Is the foam supposed to be bubbling like that? What's up, everybody? So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to create an alien containment unit. And now I want to go over the design a little bit so we can kind of follow each other along visually as we create this prop from the ground up. So the other day I was sitting here in the garage and I was trying to brainstorm ideas, getting that Halloween spirit and that creative mood to do something really cool. And to be honest with you, I was having a little bit of trouble. So as I'm sitting there working with my props and trying to get in that mental creative space, it finally hits me like a bolt of lightning. Why don't we create something different from our normal props that we create here, where they're just more character driven, which is awesome to do. But I was thinking, you know what? You guys probably are doing different themes for your decorations for your display this year. So I thought maybe we should do an alien containment unit. So once I got that idea down, I was like, all right, this is going to be really cool. We're going to use some really cheap and inexpensive things. It's going to be like a scrap project. So you're going to be able to do this with a limited amount of like sculpting skill or anything like that. We will be adding an alien to the center of it, but it's not going to be an over-the-top thing. It'll be pretty simple and straightforward for you guys so you can follow along. So why don't we go ahead and get to that material list so you know what you're going to need to get this prop going. Now, first and foremost, we're going to be needing some kind of cardboard cylinder. So, and I'm not talking about the normal cement forms we use for our spooky trees and stuff like that. Those are a little too thin. You need something with a wider diameter. So I'm going to be using a about 2 foot diameter cardboard cylinder that I happen to pick up down the street. And it's going to work perfect for this. Now, it's only about 3 feet tall, so I'll probably have mine on some kind of stand, or it'll be like a tabletop display. But if you guys have a bigger cylinder, you definitely can use this to create a big alien containment unit. We're going to be using a bunch of scraps. I'm going to take apart an old vacuum cleaner, but we're also going to be using a bunch of different pieces and parts for accessories. So, and this is where you can get really creative as well. But things I'll be using today is like old cardboard tubes for, like rolls of Christmas wrap. We're going to be using some pool noodles. I'll definitely be using some expanding foam, maybe to create some like foam coming out, or like ooze or slime, something like that, to give it more of a trippy look. We're going to be using some hot glue, and I'm going to show you a really cool technique to make your own bolt heads that you can glue onto your piece to make it look a little bit more trippy and to give it that realistic effect. And of course, we're going to be going over all kinds of different patina effects to make it look like an old metal cylinder. And then we're probably going to be using some kind of clear plastic. So I'll probably be taking apart an old plastic Tupperware, or maybe even like a plastic bin, and cut that up to make it look like shards of broken glass, because I want this alien to kind of look like he's coming out. Now, as far as the design of the alien itself, I'm just going to be using a styrofoam head, maybe with some expanding foam on the top to create that look of the brains and stuff. And then we'll probably be using some pool noodles and some wire, 16 gauge wire, to create like tentacles coming out. And then, I'm going to add some lights on the inside, maybe cut a hole in the back for a fog machine to fit in there, so we can just go ahead and spray fog to make it look like that really cool spooky look. So also too, before I forget, we're going to be using some 5mm craft foam here to create the different areas of like sheet metal and stuff as well. So this is going to be a really creative project. I'm super excited about this one. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. So I hope you guys are ready, because I think it's time that we get in that spooky mood, because we're about to go wild with it. All right, to start off our build today, I'm just going to be cutting out our little window for our alien to pop out of, and I'm using a level here just to get a straight edge so it looks as factory cut as possible. And then I'll be taking a drill here in a second. I just wanted to sketch this out so I can visually see it. I'll be taking a drill here in a second and just drilling in some 3/8 of an inch holes just so I can get my jigsaw blade in the corners to make an easier cut here. And then take my jigsaw, I'll cut out this piece of cardboard. Now that I have that cardboard cut out, I'm going ahead and taking my level here and using my 5mm foam and a brand new blade and cutting out strips of this foam here. And I just want to use my level as a straight edge so they're even all the way across, so when I layer them over each other, the same thickness, and it just looks aesthetically more pleasing. So I ended up cutting out about 10 pieces or 10 strips at about 2 feet long of this foam to get my work done for my project today. And now my little cylinder had a lid on it, so I was able to remove that lid, and then I'm putting this stripping right across that lid there, and this is going to act like my metal sheeting that goes around the actual containment unit. I let this foam overlap itself just a little bit, and I'm just going to take my straight edge here and cut it right across. Now there's a little bit of hot glue underneath that got stuck on there, but that's actually perfect because when you go to do your detailed paint, that little bit of texture grabs the paint and it makes it look really nice. And now for my broken pieces of glass here, I ended up taking my plastic bin and cutting this. Now with the first little piece here, I sawed through it, but it really killed my blade. So what I recommend doing is once you have that strip cut out or your design cut, just score the plastic and then take some gloves and crack it on itself. And it gives you some really authentic looking shards of glass. It was a really cool technique. And before I start to put my metal stripping across that little opening in the glass, I wanted to glue my pieces down first. That way I can sandwich them in between the cardboard and the foam. Just gives me a stronger bond, and I don't have to hide the edges or glue it on the inside. It's going to look a lot better this way. Now I'm just going to take my strips here and glue them into place. I'm not worried about the length. I'm just going to glue them down and then overlap them over each other like you see me doing here, and then I'll cut the excess off on the bottom. And I grabbed one of my vacuum cleaners that I had laying around that was trash. It was already broken, but the components on it were perfect. I could already see it coming together in my mind when I was checking out this vacuum cleaner. So I'm just cutting all the hoses off, and then I'll be attaching them randomly on my piece. And now I'm just taking my cardboard tubing here and gluing it directly to this project. Now, I end up screwing this down as well, just so those tubes are nice and secure along the side of the cardboard here. And then I'm taking scrap pieces of that vacuum pipe and gluing these little pieces together. It just gives it like another layer of detail. I love these types of projects. They're so much fun to do. I'm going to continue that metal banding along the bottom as well, just to make sure that aesthetic goes along the entire piece. And then of course hot gluing all my accessories onto the top here, my hoses. And you can really get creative with this process and make it look really cool. That was just a vent from one of my the filter for the fan, the air filter, but really cool. It ended up coming out great at the end. Here I'm using some old cable line and just screwing that to the top there, and then I'll be painting everything and patinaing all this stuff as well. Now too, to go over the side, I wanted to put like what looked like metal sheets or couplers that went along the pipes on the side. This was a really cool way to do it, just a little bit of hot glue and some foam. And now I'm just putting on some expanding foam in places where I want it to make it look like it's oozing goo. This is going to give a really cool effect at the end. right, what's up everybody? So I wanted to stop the video real quick and kind of show you our progress so far. So we've created this alien containment unit. It's coming out really cool. I love these pieces of plastic for the shards of glass. It looks really awesome. And all those the pieces I used from the vacuum cleaner was the best thing to use to make this thing look as authentic as possible. And it's all junk. Now I'll show you guys some of the details in a minute here up close. And also I wanted to show you this head I'm working on. Now this is just a styrofoam head. I carved out the mouth here and the nose, and I just added a couple eyes to make him look more like an alien. So I'll be mounting this on the inside of the glass here, something like this, like he's kind of pulling out of it. And then I'll add some tentacles and stuff that'll come out just to give it more of like a reaching feel. So also too, before we go any further, now these strips of foam that I use, I want to go ahead and add like faux bolts to the front. So I'm going to show you in a second how I created these faux bolts using nothing but hot glue and an old socket. So why don't I show you that right now? All right, everyone. So I'm going to show you a quick tip and trick to help kind of boost the detail of your pieces by creating these hot glue little bolts here. Now these are going to be my faux bolts so I can attach them to my alien containment unit to make it look like they're metal rivets across the entire piece. So all you're going to need for this, and again, you can go ahead and grab a silicone mold on Amazon, and I'll find one for you guys and link it down in the description below, so you don't have to resort to this. But if you find yourself in a pinch and maybe you only got a couple spare tools on hand, this is going to be a really easy and cool way to get some faux bolts using nothing but hot glue and a little bit of soapy water. So what I'm going to be using here is this socket. This is an 11/16 if you guys want the exact size. And this comes out of, one of the many spare sockets I have just laying around the shop here. So all I'm going to do is take the entire thing. Now, this works for metal and plastic, your smooth surfaces. This will be a really easy way if you don't have a mold and you need to create some detail. So just taking this metal socket, I'm dipping it in a cup. Now, this is just soapy water. So just a little bit of water with dish soap. I'm going to completely submerge this. Now, when you put it down on your surface, you want to make sure the surface is a plastic surface, or this is a melamine top, so this is going to be really easy to take it off. So I get it nice and saturated, put it on the counter here. I'm going to go ahead and grab my hot glue gun, and I'm going to do about 3 to 4 full pumps. 2, 3, and maybe just a half. Now, because I went ahead and used that soapy water, I'm going to let this sit and cool. I have a little spritz bottle here if you want to keep it cool so it goes by faster if you got to do a bunch of these like I do. So I'm going to let this sit for a few minutes. Once it's nice and cool, I'll take my stick and just pop it right out, and then we'll have ourselves a nice bolt. So let's wait on the time. All right, our bolt's been sitting for a couple minutes. Now I'm just going to take this little stick, and if you want less issues, just dip it in your soapy water. And I'm just going to pop this through the top. And out comes one perfect little bolt. So now I'm just going to make another 500 of these, and we'll get right back to the build. All right, now that I have all my bolts glued up and dried, I'm going to go ahead and glue them into the position I want. And I've used about 22 of these faux bolts for this project, and that's including the stripping that's going around the top and the bottom as well. But this is just a cool technique to add another layer of detail for your projects here. And I thought I needed a little biohazard sign, so I just cut it out of my scrap 5mm foam here just to create that little sign. And then I'll be going in with some fluorescent paint at the end in a yellow color to make it really pop out. Now I wanted to get to my tentacles, and I'm just going to be using sections of pool noodle here. And then I'll be cutting the tops and removing some of that foam in the center, like you see me doing here, just so I can pinch that material on itself and create more of like a peak for the tentacle. It was a really easy effect here. And then I'm using my heat gun to create the glue, basically. So if you guys haven't seen my scarecrow video where I mentioned how to do the heat bonding for your pool noodles, I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can check out that video as well. Now I'm using 16 gauge wire here for the tentacles to keep that shape, but I would recommend cutting at least 2 or 3 of these pieces just so your tentacle holds its shape a little bit better. And now I'm going to be using plastic like we did in our trick-or-treater greeter video, and if you guys haven't seen that one, I'll link that in the description as well for this technique. But this is a really cool way to create like a skin, a lightweight skin to go over your tentacles. Now to get to my sculpt here, I'm not really worried about my sculpture. This wasn't really the focal point of the build, it was more the containment unit itself. But as a quick little alien build, I went ahead and just did like 3 eyes to make it look a little weird. I opened up that mouth and put some wire in there with hot glue, so I have something to sculpt my teeth over. Now, for the actual teeth, I ended up just going with scraps of that plastic I used for the glass and glued it right to the wire. I wanted like sharp teeth. I didn't really have a reference picture for this. I was kind of making it up as I went along. So I was thinking more along the lines of those big aliens from The Simpsons with a big mouth and all that stuff. So going for that look. So this kind of ended up being just like a out of my imagination type of piece. It was really cool, super simple. But again, those teeth were probably the best thing from this sculpt that I actually enjoyed, just because it was a really easy way to make them, and they look really cool, and they're rigid, and they hold their shape perfectly. Now again, this face is going to be mostly inside the containment unit, so I'm not too worried about the back of the head. I just wanted to give this guy some kind of interesting features in the front. Big lips, you know, the trippy eyes, and then I added like a little ridge along the top of his head so I can put some spray foam in there to make it look a little like brains coming out, kind of like that Mars Attacks look. I'm just using my great stuff to create the brains on top, and just do like zigzags or little figure eights or whatever, and it creates a cool look.
We need more foam. We need stronger duct tape. We need hope.
Okay, bad news. The alien just ate the extension cord in your last glue stick.
Then we're doomed. Unless, wait, what about the fund?
Viewers, friends, Earthlings, if you want to help keep the operation running, make sure Geo doesn't try to contain the next alien using a shoebox or leftover pizza. Please consider supporting us on Ko-Fi, Buy Me a Coffee, or dropping a super thanks below.
Even $1 can help buy foam, zip ties, or emotional snacks for Reggie.
Or hazard pay. For me, I was slimed twice today and insulted in 3 intergalactic dialects.
Click the links and power the madness. Help us fund irresponsible science with spooky flair.
Don't make us build the next unit out of trash and trauma. We'll do it. He's done it before.
Alright, now to continue on with my tentacles, to create the little suckers on the bottom here, I just took a piece of PVC pipe and I kind of sanded that edge, the inside edge of it, just to create a little sharp like tool that I can basically cut out these little foam pieces. And I may make a short in the future where I show you guys how to do that. And then here I'm just going to hot glue them into place. Really super easy and inexpensive way to make these tentacles, and once the paint job is done, they look really amazing. So if you guys want to try them, this is a great way to do it. Now to get to the painting process, I'm just going to hit everything with a black base coat like I typically do. And once you get that color on there, once I got this all painted up, I really started to see what it looked like, because I no longer saw the individual components of like little plastic and foam. It actually looks like one piece. And now for the actual face as well, I'm hitting it with the black color, making sure not to spray the top of the foam, because that tends to be difficult to get the colors to pop out, and I wanted it to be like a vibrant. And for here, I wanted to do like an old rusty container. So I'm just taking my sponge and different colors of brown and just kind of haphazardly just stippling them all over the place. And I do a full coat of this all over the entire piece. And then I go back in with a rust color, like a bright orangish color. And I go ahead and do the same thing as well, as you can see here. And that just starts to add that layering. Now, when you're doing anything that has age to it, the layering is so important because that's what tells the viewer that it's an old piece by all the age and layered effect that you put on there. So make sure you do a few layers of different colors to make it feel as authentic as possible. And now I thought this was a really cool technique. I'm just taking some teal spray paint. I'm going to blast the line and then immediately spray some water over it. And what that does, it gives this cool patina effect with minimal effort. This thing took me like 10 minutes to do the whole thing. It was a great look. Now I'm going to take some fluorescent paint here and spray it over the foam to make it look like that goo. Now I'm going ahead with some white spray paint just to make sure it's nice and bright so that fluorescent green will really show through. It was a really cool effect at the very end of this piece. And now for the alien, I'm not really worried about the detail too much about this guy. It was kind of like secondary to the containment unit, but just giving him a nice coat of a green color, and then I'm going in with some purples just to kind of put some depth into our character here and around the lips and stuff like that. And then I'll be going back in with a light green color to kind of highlight some of that loss in detail that you can see here. But once you do the highlighting, it looks great. So only 3 paints for this guy, and it really came out cool. Now I'm using that same fluorescent paint on the head as well. And then I'm also going to go back in a second here with some hot glue around the mouth and paint that with a fluorescent orange color as well. And for the tentacles, I just kind of shoved them in between the glass, and then I took my heat gun after the fact and just glued them to whatever it was touching, and that was perfectly fine to hold that on there. Now this is that black lamp paint I was talking about. This is an orange color, just to give another layer of color on this too. And I thought he kind of looked like an alien that was kind of dripping goo from the mouth also. And I'm going to use a yellow color on the actual biohazard sign as well. But this character is pretty much done. If you guys like today's prop or you want to see more alien stuff, let me know down in the comment section below. But until next time, happy haunting. There it is, one fully, mostly, probably not secure alien containment unit, built with 100% recycled junk, creative engineering, and absolutely zero permits.
Also built while ignoring every OSHA regulation and common sense molecule in existence.
You say reckless endangerment, I say spooky ambiance with character.
I'm gonna start sleeping with one eye open. Not because I'm scared or anything, but one of my eyelids just fell off.
Huge thanks to our viewers. Make sure you smash that like button or the alien's gonna smash something else. Probably my tool shed. Again.
It's already inside your shed. It was reorganizing the paint cans. Said your shelving system was primitive.
Okay, well, now it's just being rude. I call that the end of the episode alarm. But until next time, keep building things, stay creative, and don't forget to go wild.
I'm Reginald, with high stress levels and emotional imbalances.
And we'll see you next time. I'm telling you, Reggie, we have to report this. It's classified or cursed. Possibly both.
To who exactly? 911? NASA? The Ghostbusters?
I already called NASA. They blocked my number. Again. Yes, hello? I'd like to report a rogue extraterrestrial life form. No, I'm not high. I'm a scientist. Yes, technically I built it out of trash, but emotionally it's very stable. And also the foam may be sentient, and I think it's dating my humidifier.
So, how'd it go?
They transferred me to Pizza Hut.
Perfect. Get breadsticks. We're gonna need a snack for the containment fire.
Make it 2 orders.